What's up guys, Max here, and I wanted to talk about something I'm getting a lot of questions about in regards to an update. An update to our PlayStation 4s. Just yesterday, Sony announced that the PlayStation 4 is going to have an upgraded version of itself. There's going to be a slim version, which we all expected, and there's going to be a brand new PlayStation 4 called the PS Pro. Yes, indeed, that is the PlayStation Neo. That's the one that was leaked many months ago, and we all knew this was going to happen. But how it was going to affect the future of the console and its games, we didn't have clear details, kind of until now. The biggest goal of the PlayStation 4 Pro is of course that big upgrade to HDR, which your PS4 is already going to get, as well as a resolution bump up to 4K. But how many people even have 4K TVs? Like, they're pretty expensive for the most part, and even if you end up getting a big 4K TV, some of them are pretty bad for games, having a huge amount of latency and delay. So the question I'm posing is it even worth it? Should you be investing in the PlayStation 4 Pro and an upgraded version of your system if your PS4 already works really good? Considering my channel and the people that watch these videos, there's a lot of fighting game players out there. People that are looking forward to things like Injustice 2, as well as future games like Tekken 7, and maybe ones that have already come out on your PlayStation 4 like Guilty Gear Xrd Revelator, King of Fighters 14, and Street Fighter 5. Would the PlayStation 4 Pro make any impact on those games? No. Actually, none at all. At least right now, Tekken 7 and Injustice 2, in terms of unreleased games, don't have any information as far as the PS4 Pro making an impact on those titles specifically. And for those games, they're already kind of optimized to run at 60 frames per second, because when you go online and you start playing people, everyone's got to run at the same frame rate, so they're already pretty stable. I would not recommend it if you're really into fighting games on your PS4, because that's a $400 upgrade for something you're not going to see any difference to as of right now. What you are going to see differences to is a few other titles that I'm personally somewhat excited for. Let's talk about those games. Number one is a big one that's coming up later this year. Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered will see an upgrade on the PlayStation 4 Pro in terms of its resolution. Now, the thing is, do you have to have a 4K TV for this stuff to take place for you to even notice it? You actually don't. There's been a lot of information that's come out lately over the past couple days after the show that you don't precisely have to have 4K TVs, because there will be improvements made to the 1080p versions of those games in terms of frame rate and textures and anti-aliasing and all the graphical goodness that we would like to see upgrades to. You can kind of think of the PS4 Pro as, you remember that Nintendo 64 cartridge that you would stick in, the expansion cartridge? It's sort of like that, just a lot more expensive, and it does more than that thing does. There are other games like Tomb Raider where they've directly acknowledged that you can actually run multiple versions of the game on PS4 Pro, where you have an upgraded, very high resolution version that runs at 30 frames a second, and a super bells and whistles 1080p version of the new Tomb Raider game that runs somewhere around 45 frames per second and above, which is a little worrying to me. I like frame rates in my games to be stable, to be locked, because once you start going from 30 to 60 and you have things that are completely in between all the time, I start to get visually nauseous. It's rough. So I'm not too excited about that one, but there are a couple other games that do have me kind of excited. And there's not many on there that are from past older games that I'm like really amped for, because, well, number one, the biggest game that I wanted to see an upgrade to was Bloodborne. We've all seen Dark Souls 3 run on PC now. We've seen the Bloodborne-style graphics engine running at 60 frames per second, and that game is freaking great to look at. But Bloodborne is going to be forever locked to 30 frames per second, which is kind of depressing. I would have definitely made an upgrade to my PS4 immediately based on that. But like I said, there's some other games. Final Fantasy 15, as we've all played the demos, is pretty cool looking. But it doesn't run great. It runs pretty poorly in some situations based on the couple demos we've played. I'm hoping the final version is going to be super optimized and a lot better, but the PS4 Pro version is going to look better. It's going to run more stable, it's going to have higher fidelity in terms of graphics and textures, which is a very good thing, because I think that game needs it. Now, the other one that actually I've had personal hands-on time with is VR, specifically the PlayStation VR. That one game was Resident Evil 7, and I've made an impressions video before. Resident Evil 7 didn't look that good on a regular PlayStation 4. It looked a little jagged, a little rough. It kind of felt like I was watching a PS3 game through those goggles on my face. So So I'm hoping, because PlayStation 4 Pro is going to have an upgrade in terms of VR games, that will make that experience a little bit better, because it definitely needs it. It was an early E3 demo, I get it, but it left me a little cautious that, man, this is going to be a big investment, especially with the VR goggles, just to play this. I'm immersed in the experience, but holy shit, there are some jagged lines everywhere. And that's what I kind of want to avoid. I do want to experience Resident Evil 7 for the first time, being my first VR game, with that whole 360 immersive experience. That's going to be awesome, I hope. But it has to be with the PS4 Pro, because I can already say that I lost a lot of excitement initially playing it outside of being immersed in the experience. So VR is going to get a big upgrade. Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered is going to be a big upgrade. Final Fantasy 15 should get an upgrade, just in terms of non-4K support. So these are the guys that don't have 4K TVs. That's what you get to look forward to. But if you do have a 4K TV, you're dropping a lot of cash. The console is already $400 for the PS4 Pro, and you would only assume that later down the line that there would be a lot more games that are going to take advantage of this, even though it's not a requirement. It actually all comes down to the developers of the games, what the hell they want to do to their games in order to make them compatible with the new system. Because we can't think of this as new hardware. Like, when you think of a new generation of consoles, one very specific thing has to happen, and it's that the games that are running on the new system can't work on the old system. The backwards of that usually doesn't apply anymore, because we get backwards compatible systems. Old games run on new systems a lot of the time now. But specifically for this one, the PS4 Pro will run PlayStation 4 games. It is not a new generation of hardware, just an upgrade to what the hardware already is. And that really hasn't happened before. I mean, I'm kind of thinking about the Sega CD, but the Sega CD, you couldn't play Sega CD games just on a Genesis. And this is kind of a first in terms of how the console market is working, because Microsoft is rearing and gearing for their ridiculous system, the Scorpio, that's going to be coming up in December of next year. That's a long time to wait. That's a long time to wait. But I'm only hoping that there are going to be games that fully take advantage of these new systems and really show them off. Horizon's going to be a big game. That game looks absolutely incredible. And it just feels like, just based on the concept and the visuals, that game's going to have a tough time on the original PlayStation 4. Probably going to run at 20 to 30. And I think if you want a stable 30 frames per second, you're probably going to need a PlayStation 4 Pro just to get that. It's a little crazy. These consoles are 3 years old now, the Xbox One and the PS4. So there has been a lot of aging to this stuff. I mean, some systems don't even last that long, specifically the Dreamcast and other consoles. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but it actually has been. And if you want to make an upgrade to your system, it's completely up to you. For you fighting game guys, there's nothing right now. I would not recommend dropping $400 on a PlayStation 4 Pro, because there's really no reason. Your PS4 runs Guilty Gear Xrd Revelator and Mortal Kombat X, which are probably the two most graphically intense games on that system, fighting game-wise, perfectly well. And Tekken 7 is most likely going to run really damn well, because most of Namco's console games look fantastic. But we'll see. We don't know about Injustice 2, we don't know about Tekken 7. There could be some interesting bells and whistles. It could run at 4K. You could still play people online as long as it runs at a consistent frame rate. But unless you're looking forward to a few of the games that are on this list right here, then I don't really recommend it, man. Like, it's something that I just made an investment in. I just pre-ordered mine because I want to show you guys the differences. We will actually have a PS4 side by side when some of these games come out, an old PS4 and a new PS4. We're going to see what the differences actually are in terms of resolution, in terms of frame rate, because really, if it comes down to the one thing that's most important for me, it's frame rate. I would definitely prefer a 1080p 60 frame per second consistent experience over a 4K 30 frame per second experience. But as long as the frame rate is consistent, that's what I want the most. Man, I am done with all these games that just run at varying frame rates all over the place. I don't like it, man. What do you guys think about the PS4 Pro? Like I said, we don't have a lot of information regarding the Xbox One system, but that's a long way out. There is also the whole controversy that the PS4 Pro and the new versions of the PS4 won't run 4K Blu-rays and the Xbox system will, which is a little disappointing. I don't watch a lot of movies nowadays, but I can definitely see why that would be kind of troublesome for some people. Who knows? They might make an adjustment to that in the future. But as of right now, are you getting a PS4 Pro? And what reason are you getting it for? Other than it being a hot new item? Don't tell me you buy things just because of hype. Oh god, I do the same thing too. Either way, I think it's interesting what's happening with the industry right now with these small upgrades in terms of systems, and we'll see how big of an impact it makes when it eventually does come out. As always, dudes, thank you a ton for watching. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.